I thought it'd be interesting to make a video on drugs in bodyweight strength sports or gymnastic strength training, calisthenics, street workout, those kinds of things. Just because I think it's a little bit of an untapped discussion for some people, namely because we usually think of drugs or performance enhancing drugs as drugs that are going to improve big, huge efforts, and we actually see people get exposed for those things across sprinting, across weightlifting, across fighting. We see it. But with a sport like gymnastics, you don't really hear about anything like that. So it begs the question, do they actually use any PEDs? And what kind of benefits would they get from them in the first place? Now, the first thing off the bat when we're talking about performance enhancing drugs, and we're looking at like rings gymnasts, guys that look absolutely shredded, jacked, ripped with big muscles, would they be taking things that are helping that to happen? And the thing to think about with gymnasts or gymnastics, or with any bodyweight sport actually, strength-based, is you want to be aware of your strength to weight ratio, because that is going to have the biggest result in your performance and your ability to do things. You actually want to be as strong as possible, but be as small or as light as possible. And when you take performance enhancing drugs that are going to add muscle mass, you're actually doing something that is a detriment to your overall performance. So let's just say a rings gymnast started to take some kind of anabolic steroid that was going to put on a lot of muscle mass. They're not only putting on a lot of muscle, but they're putting on weight that is going to make iron cross, planche, Victorian, all those strength skills way harder. And that's just the strength side. Think of swinging in your landings. You're having to deal with a lot more load. And even though we're only talking about a difference of like 2 to 3 kilos, that can actually be a massive difference for a gymnast weighing 65 kilos in how it would affect their performance and their overall recovery. Now, the next thing is thinking of drugs that are going to increase muscle mass, but do it way more effectively for the actual muscle and leave the tendons and ligaments behind. And this is where you can get huge discrepancies in progress, where it can actually make you much more prone to injury. So what actually would be beneficial? And what would be beneficial would be PEDs that help your overall recovery. It would just be so much better if you could do a training session and recover quickly, come back and do it again, fresh and ready to go. But that is kind of consistent across any sport. It will be good to be able to hit a session hard, recover well, and then come back again for the next day and make more and more gains. The next one is controlling your body weight. So I did say that strength to weight ratio does matter a lot. So you might be finding there's like diuretics or other kinds of PEDs that help to control your body weight. That could be beneficial. But saying that, again, you don't want to dehydrate yourself or deplete yourself when we're talking about body weight strength and performance-based sports. So there is actually a point of diminishing returns with using these as well. Now, you're probably noticing I'm kind of like shying away from naming specific drugs, and that's just because that's not my area at all. The names, the mechanism of action, and even things of like categorizing them and stuff I'm not as aware of, but that's not the point of this video. This point is to kind of discuss what avenue would performance enhancing drugs be beneficial for these sports and discuss if they are actually apparent in these sports. My friend Nate told me there was one case, or a PED case, of a guy named Oleg Vernayev who was taking meldonium, which enhances endurance and recovery. But the other cases that are more widely known are actually recreational drugs like cocaine for Yuri Van Gelder. And I think there was a weed one somewhere. But this is kind of getting to the point of the video, and what I wanted to really discuss was the difference between calisthenics, which I'm just going to put under the umbrella of like Instagram, TikTok, calisthenics skills, and street workout. Sorry to lump them together. And then gymnastics or gymnastics competition. And obviously I'm coming at it more from the perspective of the ring specialists, but men's gymnastics in general as well. It's just some apparatus like high bar and vault are not going to depend as much on the strength side of things. But you could safely say men's gymnastics does involve a lot of body weight strength, and we want to compare, or I want to compare gymnastics to the calisthenics side of things. And what you'll find is that PEDs are actually, again, not that I'm in the crowds of this or I'm in forums discussing this, but the impression that there is more PED use within the calisthenics community than there is in the gymnastics community, and just talking about why that is. And I think the main reasons here is with calisthenics, because this is something that is, if we talk about street workout, this is a new sport. It's not really regulated. It's not tested. There's nothing like that. It's kind of like a free-for-all, at least it is at the moment. And that's going to leave a lot of room for people to come in and just do whatever makes them the best possible. And if they can find the right PEDs that are going to help them train as hard as possible, but recover as efficiently as possible and keep their body weight down, you're definitely going to find it. There's also just more of a harder style to calisthenics and street workout, where I just think the vibe or the feel of being in those crowds would make PED use more to be found. It's not to say that it's like it's the black market, it's a dark alley if you get into Cali. It's not like that at all. I'm just saying if you compare it to gymnastics, you're going to get a very different vibe. I think as well as because of the crowd, the zeitgeist of what calisthenics is, you've got mainly guys getting into it in their late teens to early 20s, and that's where they're starting. And that's probably a time where you're going to be way more open to experimenting in the first place. And then if we also look at, because it is true that if you are taking PEDs, regardless of if it's gymnastics or calisthenics, to get more training under your belt, recover quicker, it is a risky thing to do with body weight strength. But if you look at calisthenics, where you're just subject to the judgment of Instagram and TikTok likes, and even in like street workout competitions, the actual judging or the standard that is set and the code of points, if we just want to like loosely call how they would judge a code of points, is so much less stringent than what it is with gymnastics, that they can, whether they notice it or care about it at all, that drop-off of performance would be far less noticeable and even cared about within those crowds. Just doesn't matter. If you compare it to gymnastics, you're looking at strict judging on a world-class level that is very harsh down to the like finer details. You would notice a drop-off in performance a lot more under those strict standards. This is probably the most important point to make here, which I find really interesting, and I hope you guys get the message or learn from this point as well, is with gymnastics compared to calisthenics and street workout, you're looking at gymnastics is kids that have been training consistently these types of skills from like 5 years old all the way up to say 25. They've literally had that much time to condition their tendons, their ligaments, and build their muscles, that it's almost like the natural slow release PED. They've put that much time in that they almost have superhuman levels of strength and conditioning and ability to work these skills without injury. And then when you look at the Cali athletes and street workout athletes that have been doing this since, say, late teens, early 20s, they have nowhere near that much time in the saddle, so they can't get away with doing these higher level demanding strength skills the same way that the gymnast can. And this is almost a way of arguing why the gymnasts don't even need to consider that, because they've already got decades of conditioning built into their bodies. It just goes to show that the tried and true and boring method of just putting in the time for something, there's no shortcuts, really does ring true. So in summary, so many Cali and street workout athletes are clean and just enjoy training and are amazing at what they do with a lot of hard work. And on the other side, there are likely gymnasts that are using PEDs without us knowing about it. But speaking generally, the the system that is in place and the values that are within gymnastics are a little bit more family orientated, starting from 5 and staying in it all the way to an adult at elite level. I worked in gymnastics for a year and I found the community was very family orientated and everyone was just kind of nice. There was just niceness to all of that. It felt very PG or G rated. And then for the Cali side, you're looking at a little bit more wild and loose because these are more teenagers and late 20s that started this and are into it. And you're just going to be way more likely to find experimentation within that field compared to gymnastics. Gymnastics has a far greater and stringent testing from WADA, the World Anti-Doping something, and there are no standards of testing within street workout and calisthenics. If someone is using PEDs within bodyweight strength training, it's likely to accelerate their recovery and to keep their body weight under control. But let me know, do you guys think there is a problem with PEDs in the calisthenics street workout community? Or do you think it's a healthy, open environment for it? Because I myself am not necessarily against PEDs. I just am also not encouraging it either. And let me know if you think gymnastics is really as clean as I seemingly made it out to be. Do you think they are just very successfully hiding and sneaky around use? Or do you think it is actually as clean because it would actually turn out to be detrimental to a gymnastics performance? See you for the next one.